Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital?
Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
a General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
This is it. Welcome to the Port Charles 411.
I feel like we're never recording again. This is our last episode ever. If we can't talk about Lucky, we're done.
It's part 52 of Lucky and part 41 of Lucky and Liz. I just really can't believe it took a year.
I know. You were super detailed, though. I think a little extra because you love him. So,
well, it's my origin storyline.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, I have looked at Bobby because we need to continue that on. We had already talked about that even before people asked. And I'm like, no, if I break it down the way that you broke Lucky down, we're going to be recording Bobby for 3 years. I can't do that. So.
But there was, I don't know, because I think that part of the problem is that I remember watching all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, or most of it. But then because of the recasts, I think that that's also part of the problem is where did we leave off on Bobby? I feel like she had her storylines, but I don't feel like she really had, BJ's heart was its own storyline, and it was heartbreaking and devastating. This Carly Tony thing, I feel like that was one of her last real storylines. She didn't really have the same way that Lucky did. I agree. And I don't mean that in any wrong way, but I just don't feel like after the Carly thing, I don't remember her having a super, super detailed storyline. Do you?
No. I feel like they do that all the time with the older characters, though. Lucky and Liz were, their love story was something that everyone paid attention to, so.
And it was back when, we've talked about, that they did the summer romances for the teens. They knew that this is where you lock them in for life.
Yep, and it worked.
Yes, it did. Maybe we'll get that with Gio and Emma, though.
That would be cute.
Because think about it. We already have, in a year that we've had Gio, we have a good bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's pick up. This is August 23rd, 2024 through June 11th, 2025. It is, at this time, the most recent time that Lucky was home. Okay, so how we kind of brought Lucky back was we had Lulu having a health condition, because that's the only way to bring brothers back.
Yep.
That's how we got Nicholas originally, and that's how we're going to bring back Lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So Lulu had been transferred to General Hospital because her condition was getting worse. That's when they found out that her liver function was deteriorating. She was being diagnosed with cirrhosis. And because she had been in the coma for 4 years, she couldn't respond, and basically saying that she was hurting in the ways that you typically would if you were not in a coma. So at this point, the only way for her recovery is basically to get some kind of a transfer so that her body can start to heal itself. So Elizabeth visited Laura at the hospital, having heard of Lulu's transfer. Good thing head nurse found out about the transfer.
Right.
Score. Laura explained that the doctors were still determining what was wrong. Liz reassures her that Lulu is in the best place possible and encourages her to visit and talk to her, noting that coma patients sometimes remember voices and conversations. Laura is grateful for the kindness, but confides that she misses Lucky deeply and wishes she knew where he was. Meanwhile, this was one of the better reveals too.
Yes.
Because all we saw was this guy getting beat up, thrown into a cell, had a bag over his head, and the guy's beating him up, and then he takes off the mask, and it's Lucky. And he asks him his name, and he says, "Just call me Lucky." And so obviously this is a very dangerous condition that he's working in. And we had heard over the years that he was working in war zones and everything as was he a missionary? Not a missionary.
Like a humanitarian.
Yeah. So stuff like that. But then we go back to Port Charles, and the doctors finally have the answer that Lulu had developed cirrhosis of the liver. Laura is stunned, believing that cirrhosis is only caused by alcoholism, which we thought too when they first
Yes.
But it makes sense that the medication that she had been on, because you would think about it, that does affect the same way as alcohol. And Lulu's records showed that she had been on the same medication for years, which had likely caused scarring and liver failure. And now her only chance was the transplant. So I'm kind of curious, if she had been out of the coma and leading an active lifestyle, would the long-term use of the same medication still had caused the cirrhosis, or was it also in part because of her inactivity?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I never thought of that.
And then Dante learned of the news and immediately volunteered to be tested, along with their son, Rocco. The doctor explained that the best match would be a close family member, ideally a full sibling. Laura realizes that this means Lucky may be Lulu's only viable donor, but no one knows where he is. Elsewhere, Lucky's situation grows more complex. He's caught in a violent environment where trust is thin. During what seems like an undercover mission, he's ordered to kill a man to prove his loyalty. And this is when we met Isaiah. And so they brought him in and they're like, all right, cool. You say you want to work for us. Kill him. And he outsmarts his captors, staying alive by relying on instinct and quick thinking. He pulled the trigger.
Yep.
And then they left. And it was Sidwell. This is also when we met Sidwell. And Isaiah's like, you really almost shot me. And Lucky's like, the gun was too light for one bullet.
Right. Lucky was very lucky.
I mean, he's good, but no, I'm sorry. I don't feel like you could. And it was just a handgun. It's not like it was a cannon that you can tell that there's no cannonball in it. But I feel like even a cannon, like you add that extra cannonball and you still don't feel
I wouldn't chance
difference.
that.
No, I mean, I would never test fate with you.
Exactly. No matter how
I had to say with you. I mean, like with anyone, but at the same time, I would not do that to you either.
Special.
So he had been living as a humanitarian worker in dangerous conflict zones, providing protection for doctors and aid workers, but also operating under constant threat because he was actually offering his services to Sidwell for the right price. Mm-hmm. And then back at home, Laura and the doctors move to quickly find other possible donors. Laura contacts the prison where Nicholas is being held to see if he can be tested. Portia reports back that Nicholas can be tested immediately in the prison infirmary, and Laura is relieved. She visits him and brings photos of Ace. The reunion is emotional, and Nicholas misses his son deeply, but insists he'll do anything for Lulu. And of course, they think that Nicholas will absolutely be a match because he was the match for her bone marrow back in the 90s.
Right.
Then when the test results come in, they bring devastating news. Nicholas is no longer a viable donor. His liver is healthy enough for him, but not healthy enough for the transplant. He is crushed, insisting he was a match before, but Laura assures him that they will find another way. Nicholas urges her to find Lucky, knowing he's Lulu's best choice. I did get annoyed by this scene. Like, Laura had not considered finding Lucky.
Right.
The way that he told her, it was like, Mom, you have to find Lucky.
A little bit
and she's like, oh my gosh, like I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Thank you, man, for telling me. Then Laura returned to Port Charles and tells Tracy what happened. And Tracy was great. She's like, I will give you the corporate jets. I will give you all the money in the world that you need. What do you need? And she said that she had already spoken with Lucky's landlady in Ireland and to his last aid organization, hoping to get some kind of a lead. Then Robert Scorpio arrives with a partial update. Lucky had been working in dangerous regions under siege, saving doctors and patients. His last known location was a refugee camp in East Africa. The camp moves frequently and communication is limited, making contact nearly impossible. Determined not to give up, Laura calls in a favor. She goes to see Brennan, a senior WSB official, and asks for help locating her son. She explains that Lucky has been providing security for humanitarian missions in East Africa and that she needs to find him to save Lulu's life. He admits that it will be difficult. The WSB isn't welcome in that region, and any search would need to be covert. But Laura insists. And then she tells him, by the way, you guys kind of owe the Spencers a favor. We did a lot for you way back in the 70s and 80s, 80s and 90s. Do us a solid. Mm-hmm. And she's like, we sacrificed enough for the agency, and she demands that they return the favor by helping her now. And Brennan agrees to do what he can. Meanwhile, Lucky remains embedded in hostile territory. He's in the compound under guard, working with his partner to plan an escape. They've taken out several guards and are waiting for the right moment to move. His partner tells him to run for the airfield when the chance comes that a contact named Hassan will meet him and take him to Mogadishu. Lucky refuses to leave without his partner, but is told he must go if he wants either of them to survive. So this was, Isaiah was actually being sent to do something, to get something medical to help. I don't think it was Sidwell though, but they only were going to send Isaiah, but it's like Isaiah and Lucky were planning on how they could get out together. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't working that way. I'm going to try to not explain too much, but I did watch all of this. Most of it I watched. I'm not going to say all.
All right.
And then back in Port Charles, Laura continues rallying support. She turns to Kevin and Tracy, explaining that Lulu's situation is critical, and they promise to help in any way they can. And Laura holds on to faith that Lucky will be found and brought home in time. And then Lucky kind of goes missing, and she confronts Brennan, accusing him of withholding information about Valentine Cassidyne's whereabouts. Mm-hmm. And Brennan insisted that the agency doesn't have Valentine's current location, but Laura challenges his honesty, demanding answers because Lulu's life is at stake. Lulu is dying, and her daughter Charlotte might be the key to saving her, but only if Laura can find her in time. Brennan eventually receives an update confirming that Lucky was last seen at a refugee camp in Somalia-Ethiopia border about a week earlier. Satellite coverage is limited, and communication with that region is unreliable. Brennan warns that the only way to reach Lucky is to send someone there in person, but doing so would be dangerous. Laura refuses to send strangers, declaring that she will go herself. Kevin insists on accompanying her, despite Tracy's warnings about the risks. Laura arranges for Ace to stay with Tracy while she's gone. And it was so funny because Tracy's like, I'm sorry, what? I said I would do anything, but baby... Laura's like, you guys have how many nannies in the mansion?
Right.
And Tracy's like, there's two. That's exactly what Laura said. She's like, Tracy's like, yeah, we have two. And she's like, cool, they're not going to notice another kid. But she trusts Tracy to take care of her grandson before she departs to find her son. Then we see Lucky back at the compound, and it's after Isaiah left. And Sidwell, I can't remember if he had already found out that Lucky was good at cards, or if Lucky was like, listen, I'll play cards with you for my freedom. So Lucky's trying to maintain his composure through card games with Sidwell, gambling to stay alive. Sidwell is amused by Lucky's calm under pressure, keeping him around for entertainment despite threatening to kill him if he loses. Lucky's wit and poker skills continue to buy him time. Through a tense exchange, Lucky reveals his cynicism about relationships, joking that he's lucky at cards, unlucky in love. And Sidwell taunts him, saying that luck eventually runs out, but Lucky continues playing, fully aware that losing means death. Meanwhile, others within the compound plot and barter over hidden resources, including diamonds that Sidwell's men have discovered in the mines. As tensions grew, Lucky is beaten and bruised and dazed, hallucinating visions of Liz. And it was so sweet because they had her in the cell with him. And he was waking up and seeing her, and she was being a nurse. She was in her scrubs, and she was kind of giving him medical attention. Mm-hmm. Liz's voice urges him to stop running from his family and come home, reminding him that helping others doesn't erase the pain that he's caused by staying away. Lucky confesses that he left because he couldn't face them, believing he wasn't the father or man they deserved. Liz tells him to stop hiding behind heroics and return not as a savior, but as a man with the courage to admit his flaws.
Yes, and he tells her about it later, and it's super cute.
He does. When Lucky regains consciousness, the compound remains on edge. Sidwell orders his men to prepare to move their operation after the mine yields less and less ore. Lucky's charm keeps him alive, but he remains under constant watch. Soon after, new arrivals appear at the camp, including Holly Sutton, who had been running her own covert con within Sidwell's network, and Jason Morgan and Anne Devane, who have come to extract Lucky. The reunion is fraught with danger. Sidwell captures them all and forces a deadly game of cards to decide who lives and who dies. If Lucky wins, he and Holly will survive. If Jason wins, he and Anna will survive. If Sidwell wins, everyone dies. So that means Sidwell definitely wins. The stakes are life or death, and all eyes turn to Lucky, whose luck has kept him alive so far. Before the game begins, Jason manages to warn Lucky that Lulu is in need of a liver transplant and that Lucky is her best chance at survival. The message hits him hard. He realizes that the reason everyone risked so much to finding him was to bring him home to save his sister. Sidwell interrupts before Lucky can react. The game begins, tense and silent, every card carrying the weight of lives. Lucky plays his hand, and when the round ends, Sidwell declares him the winner. For now, Lucky survives. His luck has held once again, and the path home is still perilous, finally opens before him. Lucky works with his allies to ensure everyone's safety after the dangerous situation overseas. He expresses heartfelt gratitude to those who helped him, acknowledging that he could not have managed alone, and specifically notes Kevin and Laura's effort in trying to locate him. He learns that his mother left the refugee camp before his friend Isaiah arrived, but she went searching for him anyway, showing her commitment. Because
Nicholas told her she had to find him. It's all Nicholas's
Yes.
idea. At General Hospital, Lucky meets Dr. Portia Robinson and Dr. Randolph, who begin the process of testing him for compatibility as a liver donor. When it comes time for blood work and other procedures, Lucky admits he has a fear of needles, looking anxious as the staff prepares him for the tests. Elizabeth notices his discomfort and steps in, offering to help keep him calm. She holds his hand lightly and makes lighthearted jokes to distract him, teasing him about his usual tough guy persona. Lucky chuckles nervously but appreciates the support, and after the first prick, Elizabeth hands him a juice box to help him recover. He sips it, a small smile crosses his face, grateful for her thoughtfulness. Their interactions remain flirtatious, even amid the tension. She teases him about how he's changed. Lucky laughs, leaning on his charm, and makes a joke comment about impressing her with his bravery. As they move through the hospital for additional tests, they share light banter about his travels to Africa and Ireland, with Elizabeth responding with teasing comments about his hero complex. Despite the flirtation, they both remain focused on Lulu's urgent medical needs. He learns that Laura and Kevin had been at the refugee camp trying to reach him, emphasizing the family's shared concern for Lulu. Lucky expresses guilt over his absence, admitting he had been running and hiding instead of confronting challenges at home. He apologizes to Lulu for not being the brother she needed and promises to support her, hoping for her forgiveness. Lucky reflected on his responsibilities as a father, thinking about Aiden's growth, while Elizabeth encourages him to approach his son thoughtfully. Feeling reassured that his choices were justified, Lucky prepares to reconnect with and protect his family. He completed the remaining tests required for the liver donation, with Elizabeth confirming he was in good physical and mental shape, teasing him one more time about staying out of trouble before surgery. Lucky remained focused on Lulu's well-being, his determination and resilience tempered by the brief moments of flirtation and comforting presence Elizabeth provided amid the hospital stress and urgency. Lucky's next stop was Sonny Corinthos' office. Sonny looked up in surprise and embraced him warmly, noting the effort it took for Lucky to come home. Lucky downplayed his own role, crediting Jason, Anna, and Carly for making his return possible. Sonny reminded him that his father would be proud. Lucky admitted he wasn't sure about pride, maybe relief, but not pride, and confessed that after years abroad, the scariest thing was facing Aiden, who he had largely lost touch with. Sonny's advice was simple but grounding: just show up. That was all Aiden needed. Lucky promised he would, and then made his way to General Hospital. I loved him seeing Sonny and them having the whole conversation about his dad and their long-term friendship.
Yes.
At the hospital, he briefly ran into Dr. Isaiah Gannon, a colleague from his time overseas. The reunion was quiet, with relief hidden between careful words. They spoke about their shared experiences and how strange it felt to be somewhere safe after surviving so long in a danger zone. But Lucky's mind was focused on his sister, Lulu. Dr. Robinson briefed him on her condition, the potential for a liver transplant, and the risk involved. Lucky, ever determined, said he would do whatever it took, even if that meant putting himself through danger once more. Before confronting
And something.
Oh, go ahead.
And I forgot to throw in there that, I mean, it kind of does. Isaiah was found beaten up. He didn't walk into the hospital. So people didn't know who he was. And then when Liz went in there and was talking to him, he just starts mumbling, Lucky.
Yes.
And Liz is like, what? And then when he wakes up, he realizes, oh, wait, you're Liz. I've heard all about you. And it was, she knew that he knew Lucky, but it's they didn't really talk about how they knew each other.
Right. So then, before confronting the reality of Lulu's situation, Lucky paused at a familiar room where Aiden sat. The boy had grown into a teenager, taller and calmer than Lucky remembered. Elizabeth encouraged Lucky to simply talk to him, and he stepped inside, apologizing for the months of silence and missed milestones. Aiden revealed that he had feared his father didn't want to hear from him anymore. Lucky reassured him that he had always wanted to stay connected, but hadn't known how from such a distance. Then, in a quiet, tense moment, Aiden shared that he was gay. Lucky's response was immediate and unwavering. He loved his son, and nothing changed that. Relief flooded Aiden's face, and the two began speaking more openly, sharing stories and dreams. Aiden spoke about his new baking business and his goal to study pastry in Paris. Lucky smiled, reminded of Luke's persistence and resourcefulness, and allowed himself to feel pride rather than guilt for the first time in years. And that was beautiful, seeing them reconnect.
It really was. Yeah.
The brief peace was shattered when Elizabeth returned with test results. Despite being a genetic match, Lucky could not donate part of his liver to Lulu because of his liver enzymes were elevated from a parasite he had contracted overseas. While harmless to him, it could have been fatal for her. Shock and disbelief hit him. He asked for repeated tests, hoping for a mistake, but there was none. The realization crushed him. The journey that had brought him home, the risk that had been taken to reunite him with his sister, now seemed pointless. He felt the weight of failure pressing down. Elizabeth tried to console him, reminding him of all the lives that he had saved over the years, but Lucky could only focus on the one life he could not save, his sister's. In Lulu's hospital room, Lucky sat quietly beside her, holding her hand, speaking softly. He admitted that he could not help her directly, but urged her to fight and hang on until another donor could be found. His voice wavered, the burden of helplessness evident. In that moment, Rocco entered, believing Lucky was going to save his mother. When he realized Lucky couldn't, the boy's heartbreak was immediate, and he ran down the hallway. Lucky was left standing, frozen and helpless, the emotional weight nearly unbearable. Soon
That
after,
was so hard to watch
it
because he was so
was.
excited to see Uncle Lucky. And then
Mhm.
thank goodness he just told him quickly though, it's not gonna be me.
Right.
Oh,
Soon after, doctors informed the family that Lulu's condition had worsened. Portal vein thrombosis complicated the surgery and reduced the odds of success. Lucky refused to give up. He turned to Dr. Isaiah, asking him to take the case despite his hesitation. Isaiah initially resisted, haunted by a past failed surgery that drove him to leave medicine temporarily. Lucky reminded him of the choices they both made to escape guilt and run from the past failures. Insisting that this was their chance to do something right, Isaiah eventually agreed. And that was whenever you really saw that they had become really good friends overseas, because he was like, dude, it's my sister. You have to try. And Isaiah didn't want to do it because if she would have died, that would have come between their relationship.
yeah.
While waiting for surgery, Lucky confided in Laura about the years he spent in Africa. He admitted that helping others had been a form of running away, a way to escape guilt over leaving Elizabeth and Aiden behind. Laura listened patiently, reminding him that he had done good in the world and saved lives. She acknowledged the restless spirit he shared with Luke, but reassured him that it didn't make him a bad man. Lucky reflected on his past choices, admitting that he had always feared failure, but now he realized that he had to confront it for the people he loved. The surgery took hours, with the family waiting silently. When Isaiah emerged, he announced that Lulu had survived the transplant and was stable. Relief washed over everyone. Lucky embraced Laura, letting the tension finally break, feeling the weight of responsibility and fear lift slightly. In the days following, Lucky stayed at Lulu's bedside, speaking softly to her, expressing gratitude for giving him a reason to return home. He reminded her to keep fighting, promising to remain present. He also spoke with Elizabeth about his plan to return to Africa, explaining that Lulu was now safe. Elizabeth expressed frustration and worry, emphasizing that Aiden needed him and the family required presence, not absence. Lucky assured her he wasn't running. He felt his place of purpose was abroad, though Elizabeth recognized that his mind was already made up. Lucky also spent time with Sunny, admitting that he felt more useful helping others overseas than in Port Charles. where the past and his mistakes were always waiting. Sonny didn't try to stop him, but reminded him that eventually he would need to define what home truly meant. Before leaving, Lucky shared one final moment with Laura, who reminded him she was proud he had returned when it mattered most. He promised her he would come back. As he prepared to depart, Lucky paused outside Kelly's diner, the site of so many family memories. He looked through the window, reflecting on his son, his sister, and the family he had almost lost. He understood that he couldn't say everywhere at once. Stay everywhere at once, but he also knew he wasn't running anymore. He was moving forward. Port Charles would always be home, and no matter where life took him, a part of him would always return.
Lucky then reflects on Dante's grief over losing Sam McCall, noticing the depth of pain in Dante's eyes. He realizes that Dante's sorrow is genuine and rooted in losing the woman he loved, which resonates with Lucky as he considers the fragility of life and the complications in his own world. We never thought about this one, that Lucky's ex-brother-in-law was sleeping with his ex-lover.
Oh, yeah?
Just to throw that one in there, too. With his past conflicts, including the Cyrus situation and other unresolved issues now settled, Lucky feels ready to focus on the present and those he cares about. His attention quickly turns to Lulu when he learns she is waiting for him at his apartment. Excited and relieved to hear that she is well, he hurries over to see her, grateful for her safety and presence. While picking out a Christmas tree, Lucky encounters Liz, who explains that their son Aiden opted to spend time at the mall with friends instead of helping decorate at home. They went to Rice Plaza together. They didn't just run into each other.
Right.
Seeing her struggle with a small, inadequate tree, Lucky insists on helping her find a larger one and teases her about having to downplay the holiday traditions she loves so much. And that was sweet because he was talking all about the type of tree that she usually liked to put up. And, it was obvious that they had done this many times before. Their conversation quickly became nostalgic, recalling a teenage dream in which Lucky would move to New York City to play music and Liz would pursue her art. They reminisce about the carefree optimism of their youth, sharing a moment of mutual appreciation and recognition of the support that they'd given each other over the years. Lucky tells Elizabeth that she was the first person to truly believe in him and encourages her, reminding her that she deserves the world. Together, they pick out a suitable tree and return to her home to begin decorating. Lucky playfully assumes the role of wingman in her holiday preparations, helping to hang ornaments, arrange lights, and sharing laughs over cookies baked by Aiden. Amid the lightheartedness, their conversation becomes reflective when Lucky comments on Lulu's progress and their family dynamic. They also discuss Lucky's own future, and he admits that he intends to stay in Port Charles for the foreseeable future, which Jonathan Jackson also wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to throw that out there. He talked about it in great detail with honest to goodness passion, I felt, in sincerity, when, we sat less than 4 feet away from him in July of 2025. And he truly did. He wanted to stay, and it just wasn't working for their family. And so that is why we only have 9 months to talk about right now. But this decision reassures Elizabeth. When she suggests that he revisit his old dream of playing music, she hands him Cameron's guitar, encouraging him to perform. Lucky plays a heartfelt song for Elizabeth. Isn't this when he sang Elizabeth?
Yes, which was Elizabeth.
It was so good. Conveying his emotion through lyrics about faith, love, and hope, and deepening their bond in a quiet, intimate moment. Oh, and something else that Jonathan Jackson shared. He actually wrote that song.
He did. And then he said he lost the extended lyrics to it.
Yep. So it will only forever be that little bit. But he was a teenager and he wrote that beautiful song about a girl that his character was in love with.
Right.
Could you imagine what he writes for his wife?
Oh, she's a lucky lady.
Very. Oh, okay. The tone shifts dramatically when Lucky arrives at the hospital to find Elizabeth distraught over a patient's death. Dex Heller, Jocelyn's boyfriend, has suddenly died of a heart attack following what appeared to be routine post-operative care. The incident mirrors the unexplained death of Sam McCall. Lucky and Elizabeth review the circumstances. Dex was healthy, fully recovered from surgery, and there was no obvious medical reason for the cardiac arrest. They discussed the troubling possibility that these deaths could be linked, noting the alarming similarities and the potential for deliberate wrongdoing. Elizabeth is summoned for a medical record review at General Hospital, and she is informed that because the 2 unexplained deaths occurred under her supervision, she must temporarily step back from direct patient care. She can either take administrative work or a leave of absence. Lucky supports her decision to continue contributing administratively, emphasizing her responsibility to her patients and his confidence in her integrity. Fair enough. She's going to have to make up that work anyway, so might as well just do the administrative.
And I think she wanted to still be able to keep an ear out as to what was going on in the hospital.
Yeah. They discuss the unsettling nature of the investigation, acknowledging that someone may be deliberately harming patients, but neither can determine who. The investigation intensifies when Rick Lansing arrives as Elizabeth's legal counsel, complicating matters. Lucky initially mistrusts Rick, concerned that his involvement could hinder Liz rather than protect her. Liz, however, asks Lucky to stay, valuing his perspective as a former cop and his protective presence. During the review, hospital representatives question Elizabeth about her role in the deaths of Sam McCall and Dex Heller. No, she didn't have a role in it.
Right.
She had a role in their care. Yeah, she had a role in their care, and it just ended in death. They point out that as head nurse, she was present and responsible for overseeing patient care, suggesting a potential pattern of misconduct. They also did not address the fact, I know that Liz and Sam had overcome this, but at one point, Liz and Sam were adversaries because Sam was trying to seduce Lucky.
Yep.
Oh, Rick intervenes to stop further questioning, emphasizing Elizabeth's legal rights. I guess when you have more than a decade between incidents, like they stop considering that it might be an issue.
I would think so. Like, we've grown up some. It's okay that I used to hook up with your man. We can be friends now.
He was a whole different guy back then anyway, so. Only part of it, though. No, that was completely Greg Vaughn, I think.
Yeah, I think that was all Greg Vaughn.
I think it was completely, yeah. So Lucky processes the situation with growing concern. He recognizes the danger in the pattern of digitalis-related deaths, understanding that 2 patients have now died under similar circumstances, and a third case, Sylvie Mullen, who died months earlier, is being considered for further investigation. The hospital plans to exhume her body for testing. Lucky's frustration and protective instincts surge, and he pledges to stand by Elizabeth, knowing she would never harm anyone and determined to help uncover the truth. Outside the hospital, Lucky participates in a more personal holiday scene. He joins Liz and her family to celebrate Christmas, meeting Cameron's girlfriend Greta and observing the joyful interactions between the younger generation. He notes Liz's pride in her children and her effort to maintain family traditions despite past hardships. When Lulu returns home, Lucky reunites with her, sharing in the warmth of family and supporting her during the emotionally charged holiday season. Laura, their mother, expresses relief at having both children together while acknowledging the absence of Charlotte. Lulu reassures her, holding fast to faith and vowing to make the most of the present with her loved ones. And this is when we learned that the boys have a group chat.
Right, because poor Liz didn't have a present for Greta because no one even told her that they were coming home.
Yep. And then Lucky starts investigating Cyrus Renault's activities. He starts by questioning members of the Port Charles Redemption Mission about Cyrus's volunteer work. They explain that Cyrus dedicates himself to helping the most desperate people, patients in hospitals and long-term care facilities, many of them lonely and without family, aka vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky interrupts the conversation, wanting to know more about Cyrus's involvement. When asked why, he explains that his mother warned Cyrus to stay away from his sister Lulu, but Cyrus continued visiting her at General Hospital and at her long-term care facility, even claiming authority over her medical decisions. Lucky's curiosity deepens as he learns that Cyrus had also been seen at Rice Plaza during the holidays. He listens as Felicia recounts that Cyrus stood for hours collecting donations, constantly ringing the bell. But on the day that Dex Heller was stabbed, the bell suddenly stopped ringing. We already talked about this. Mm-hmm. We didn't know exactly when Dex, it's not like we heard a scream and didn't hear the bell. Right. It was like days later, Felicia's like, oh, you know what? The bell stopped ringing at the same exact time. We don't know the exact time.
Right.
Or they couldn't have matched that up. Anyway, Lucky connects the dots. Dex once worked for Sonny Corinthos, who had ordered him to kill Cyrus years ago. Dex only stopped when Sonny changed his mind, and Cyrus had seen Dex in his hospital room dressed as an orderly. Lucky realizes the conversation between Dex and Cyrus at the tree lot might have been about the unfinished attempt on Cyrus's life. Later, Lucky meets Elizabeth at General Hospital. She tells him there has been another attempt to poison a patient with digitalis. The target, Michael, survived because Isaiah correctly identified the poisoning in time. Lucky asks whether Cyrus was nearby, but Elizabeth wasn't sure. She shared that Cyrus preferred volunteering in hospitals and care facilities, including Turning Woods, Silverwater, and GH, places where many of the victims had been. They discuss Lulu's past ventilator malfunction and suspect a connection between these incidents. Lucky points out that while Lulu and another patient, Sylvie, were chronically ill, Sam and Dex were healthy, and the inconsistency puzzles them both. Elizabeth suggests checking whether other patients in the facility died of unexplained cardiac arrests. Lucky agrees and mentions he can reach out to someone in the medical examiner's office for help. They consider taking their findings to the police, but decide they don't have enough proof yet. Then Liz abruptly teases Lucky, saying that another man has caught her eye. She's referring to Cyrus, who appears nearby. Liz bumps into Cyrus and apologizes, while Lucky watches closely. Cyrus greets them politely and asks about Lulu, prompting Lucky to remind him to stay away from their family. After Cyrus leaves, Lucky and Elizabeth assess how their plan went. She played the part of being overly polite to him, and Lucky jokes about her being the good cop to his bad cop. They discuss how to get Cyrus to open up further. Liz suggests running into him again in a public place or volunteering at the redemption mission herself. Lucky worries for her safety, reminding her that Cyrus was once a drug lord and had spent years in prison. Their exchange turns tense, but charged with familiarity, Elizabeth pushes back, insisting she can take care of herself, while Lucky's protectiveness shows through. His concern comes off as possessive, and she teases him for realizing it so quickly. He softens, admitting he just doesn't want to hurt her. Elizabeth tells him she appreciates his help, but needs to handle things her way to protect her hospital and her staff. Oh, that was something too, was way back in the beginning when he saw her at Bobby's. She was on her way to like a staff meeting or something, and he said, oh, you work like the daylight shift or whatever, and or you're working early. And she's like, yeah, the perks of making your own schedule.
Because he didn't know she was a nurse.
Yeah, and that's how he found out. Lucky gives in, smiling as their old chemistry resurfaces. He reminds her how strong, resourceful, and resilient she is, admitting he used to love being the one she leaned on. Their shared story hangs in the air as they agree to investigate together, not his way or hers, but our way. Oh. And then this is when Lucky went to Charlie's to get a job, and Liz joined him, and, she's being all cute and flirty with the cute bartender. She tells him to surprise her with a drink, and he does, jokingly warning that it's nothing lethal. When she compliments how he's settling in, he admits things have improved. She tells him she is glad that he is staying, and he smiles, saying the same to her. Their light tone shifts when she appears dressed up. He tells her that she looks great, and she notices that he is equally put together. Their flirtation briefly falters when Dr. Gannon joins them, but Lucky discreetly signals the doctor to leave, wanting a private word with Elizabeth. They turn back to the case. Liz shares that she found a lead, and Lucky praises her. As Lucky and Liz continue the conversation, Lucky's uncle Martin arrives and tells them about his mother's declining health, and that Cyrus had very controversial views on prolonging her life. Martin recalls how Cyrus didn't want extraordinary measures taken when their mother fell ill, and though she recovered, she later established legal directive to protect her care. Lucky listened as Martin explained that guilt over his mother might drive Cyrus's behavior towards terminal patients. Perhaps he sees ending their suffering as mercy. Once Martin leaves, Lucky and Elizabeth analyze the information. Liz speculates that Cyrus might be motivated by guilt or a twisted sense of compassion, but Lucky points out that not all victims were terminal. They're still missing a part of the puzzle. Their discussion is interrupted by a bar brawl between Cody and Spinelli. Lucky steps in to defuse it, but ends up taking a punch from Cody. Liz tends to his injuries with her usual calm, teasing him as she cleans the cut. Their playful rapport resurfaces again, and she scolds him for getting hurt and jokes about that his new mantra should be accepting help from GH's head nurse. Lucky thanks her, clearly enjoying the attention. While he's held temporarily after the altercation, Elizabeth visits him again, and the mood turns lighter. She tells him it's ridiculous that he's stuck there when he didn't start the fight. He quips that the officers are just doing their job. Oh, because he got arrested too? He quips that the officers are just doing their job, and she says Cody had no right to hit him. Their conversation turns to Cody's gambling past, and they laugh about challenging him to a game. Elizabeth then pivots back to the case, insisting she still needs his help. Lucky pretends to be surprised, asking if the only reason she's there, and she smirks, playing along. They soon meet Felicia to gather more information about the night that Dex was stabbed. Felicia confirms that Cyrus's bell had stopped ringing just before the attack. Lucky notes her sharp observation and asks if she noticed anything else. She says no, but recalls that Cyrus was later banned from volunteering at GH for unknown reasons. Lucky and Elizabeth decided they needed to visit Turning Woods to see if Cyrus visited patients who later suddenly died. Elizabeth arranges for their visit through Tara, a staff member, and when they arrive, they learn Tara has called in sick. A woman at the desk offers to help, and Lucky studies her, recognizing her from the night that Lulu went missing.
Lucky followed up on his sister Lulu's safety and care. He speaks with staff about Cyrus Renault, Lulu's uncle, who volunteers extensively with patients, particularly those who are alone or in their final days. Lucky requests a list of patients who passed under Cyrus's care so he can track potential issues. The staff is hesitant, explaining they need to check with administration, and Lucky patiently waits while they confirm. When Mr. Ferner confronts him, questioning his presence, Lucky calmly explains his purpose and retrieves the necessary information, asserting his commitment to protecting Lulu and understanding any risks posed by Cyrus's activities. And that was whenever Liz got the stuff off the copy machine because their connection wasn't there. Lucky reviews the deaths of several patients, including Miss Chad, a 75-year-old who had dementia and was otherwise healthy, and considers Cyrus's involvement. He notes the pattern of patients dying unexpectedly after visits from Cyrus. Lucky discusses these findings with Elizabeth, who provides insight into recent threats, including Jen Sidwell, a former captor who tried to kill Lucky. Elizabeth is worried about Lucky and tells him to be careful, especially around Sidwell. Lucky insists he can handle himself, but when he talks about what happened, it's clear how bad it was. He describes being forced to play poker for his life, exhausted, starving, and unsure what day it was. Losing meant dying. He says he got through it by remembering lessons from his father and thinking of Elizabeth. Her voice and smile helped him stay focused and believe he could make it out. Lucky chuckles lightly. Even when I was trapped, I'd replay in my head what you might have said to me in those moments. It kept me focused. Your voice, your smile, it reminded me there was still good in the world. Elizabeth listens and understands how close he came to breaking. She tells him she's glad he's safe, and they share a quiet moment that shows how strong their connection still is. They even laugh a little, remembering the night they danced at Luke's. Then Elizabeth shares that she's going back to work at General Hospital. Lucky's proud of her. The light teasing between them feels natural, cutting through the tension of their earlier talk. Finally, they discuss Cyrus's parole. Lucky asks if she can find out the terms of his release, and she agrees, saying he owes her a coffee afterwards. They end with a plan to stay ahead of Cyrus, working together again, both determined to stop him before he can disappear. Later, Lucky recounts the moment Sidwell took Holly Sutton nightclubbing in Nairobi. I tried to escape, he says. I got close, but Sidwell's guards caught me. I remember lying there knowing it might be the end. Elizabeth reaches for his hand, and you didn't give up. That's what I admire most about you, Lucky. You always know what I would say to myself in those moments, he replies, his eyes meeting hers. You were with me even when you weren't. Elizabeth smiles, leaning closer. Lucky, you weren't exactly dreaming about me, were you? He laughs softly, maybe a little. You've been in my head a lot longer than you know. They handle recent threats together, including Ava's attempted kidnapping of Avery. I don't know that was really a kidnapping.
Mm-mm.
The Avery was at the park. Ava was not supposed to see Avery. She showed up at the park and Avery was there with Christina. And so she was like, come on, Avery, come with me. You can see my new apartment right now. And Christina was ready to flip out because of all of her crap between her and Ava. And luckily, Liz and Lucky stepped in and were like, okay, Ava, we're not going to do this today. Not in front of the kids. Come on, you'll have to do it another day.
Right.
It wasn't really kidnapping. Throughout the day, they coordinate patient safety, monitor threats, and review Cyrus's activities. Lucky admires Elizabeth's guidance and calm presence. I don't know how I would manage without you, he confesses. Elizabeth grins, teasing, flattery will get you everywhere, Mr. Spencer. They exchange smiles, playful glances, and subtle touches, highlighting a mix of professional partnership, trust, and romantic tension. Lucky and Elizabeth continue to gather evidence against Cyrus, reviewing the patient histories and analyzing potential patterns in death. Lucky reflects on his responsibilities to protect his family and patients, and Elizabeth provides reassurance. You've got a lot on your plate, she says, but I trust you'll handle it. I wouldn't want to handle it with anyone else, he admits, their hands brushing briefly. As they discuss next steps and potential risks, Lucky emphasizes the need to act decisively. Elizabeth remains supportive, occasionally teasing, occasionally serious, blending strategy with warmth. Lucky arrives at Elizabeth's house after she contacts him urgently. She teases him about sounding excited in his text, and Lucky tells her his meeting with Anna went well. Anna listened to everything and took the evidence he found in Cyrus Renald's trash and plans to move forward with an arrest, finally giving justice to the patient Cyrus killed. The conversation is interrupted when Aiden arrives with a Valentine's Day cake for his mom and dad. Oh my gosh, this was so cute. Aiden was
It
so
was.
protective. It was so cute.
Well, the
Aiden,
cake was actually for Elizabeth, not and
right,
Lucky. Lucky just
right.
happened to be there.
Exactly. So Aiden introduces his friend Tobias, who helped with the baking. Lucky warmly greets Tobias, and Elizabeth praises the cake. When Aiden and Tobias are ready to leave for the Valentine's Day skate, Aiden hesitates, worried about leaving his mom alone. Elizabeth reassures him, understanding his protective instinct, but insisting he go have fun, saying she likes spending time with his dad. After the boys leave, Lucky and Elizabeth share an easy, warm moment. Lucky notices the conversation wasn't really about skating, and Elizabeth admits Aiden is a little concerned about how close she and Lucky have been getting. Lucky understands, saying it's fair. He hasn't always been around for her and Aiden. He knows Aiden doesn't want her hurt. Elizabeth smiles and promises to tell Aiden he doesn't have to protect her from Lucky. They share cake and gentle teasing before Lucky grows quiet, looking at her and saying she's as beautiful as the day he met her. She blushes and the flirtation turns tender as he admits she looks even more beautiful now. It was so cute.
It was.
That evening, chaos erupts when Cyrus Renal attacks. Cyrus threatens Elizabeth with a syringe of digitalis, and Lucky rushes in to protect her. In the struggle,
Hold it.
Cyrus...
Did we
What?
leave out the bad kiss?
Oh, it did leave out the bad kiss.
Okay, so fake Lucky, one day stand
Oh
in.
my god, that was so
They
bad.
gave us, what, 6 months of torture?
Right,
Of
to let
them,
other
were they,
dude
weren't
get the
they?
kiss.
And then on Valentine's Day, they finally kissed, but it wasn't Jonathan Jackson?
Yep.
Yes.
They left it out because they knew it was going to make us angry if we talked about it again.
I think that I left it out. Oops.
That evening,
Yeah.
chaos erupts when Cyrus Renault attacks. Cyrus threatens Elizabeth with a syringe of digitalis, and Lucky rushes in to protect her. In the struggle, Cyrus injects Lucky with the toxin and flees. Elizabeth immediately calls 911 and begins performing CPR, urging Lucky to stay with her. Paramedics arrive and transport him to General Hospital, with Elizabeth riding alongside, terrified for his life. Laura is contacted and hurries to the hospital. Elizabeth explains to her and Lulu that Lucky was defending her when Cyrus attacked. She recounts how Cyrus had killed multiple patients and caused Lulu's liver failure in his attempts to release them. The doctors work to stabilize Lucky, telling the family that he is in guarded condition due to the unknown dose of digitalis. During this time in the ICU, Lucky's heart briefly stops and Elizabeth pleads with him to not give up. The medical team manages to bring him back, stabilizing him. Laura, Lulu, and Aiden gather at his bedside, overwhelmed with relief. Elizabeth quietly thanks Lucky for saving her life, and Lulu calls him stubborn but heroic. When Lucky wakes up, he is weak but alert, relieved to see that Elizabeth and Aiden are safe. Once Lucky is cleared to go home, he and Elizabeth attempt to reconnect, but their efforts are repeatedly interrupted. Laura stops by to check on him, reminding Elizabeth that Lucky must be monitored closely, because, she's not a nurse or anything. She doesn't know that about patients.
Right.
Elizabeth and Lucky must... No, I said that. Rick Lansing arrives with official paperwork from the Medical Review Board, formally exonerating Elizabeth and confirming back pay. He thanks Lucky for saving her life and hints that Elizabeth deserves happiness, implying he could do better. Carly stops by shortly after with a gift basket, thanking Lucky and Elizabeth for their role in bringing Cyrus to justice. Each visit delays their chance to be alone, leaving them exasperated but smiling at the interruptions. Finally, when the
This
house...
was great because they kept trying to kiss and cuddle
Yep.
and do all the things, and then everyone was knocking at the door.
Yeah.
Well, it started with Aiden. It did.
Yes.
But then, he went and got stabbed.
Mm-hmm.
So then there was like that pause. And then Carly brought the basket. And then I think Aiden showed up again because remember, he took a bunch of stuff out of it. That might be the time that I'm thinking with Aiden. That might be the time. Yeah.
Yep, he did.
Yeah, because
He definitely raided the basket.
Yep.
Finally, when the house quiets down, Elizabeth finds Lucky asleep on her couch. She gently wakes him and they tease each other about it. He complains about his sore neck and she laughs, suggesting he sleeps upstairs next time. He grins at the idea of a next time and she responds that she hopes there will be one. And she woke him up the next morning. She didn't wake him up that night. Like, she went upstairs to do something and then she came back down and he had fallen asleep on the couch already. And so she let him sleep all night. With everyone gone, Lucky tells Elizabeth that whether Aiden is home or not, he wants to be with her because his feelings are real. Elizabeth meets his gaze and tells him she feels the same. She gets ready for work and he jokes about sometimes hating that she's a nurse because she's always running off. Even if she wasn't a nurse, she'd still have a job. Before leaving, she mentions he can stay and fix her freezer, and he laughs, promising to be her hero again if he can. At last, they are alone, the tension between them quiet but unmistakably romantic.
So good. But then Lucky is meeting Christina at Charlie's, where she hands him a key to the back entrance. Their banter is easy and light until Christina admits that she's having a rough day. She tells Lucky that her father, Sonny, is having heart problems and needs surgery, which has forced him to settle his custody suit with Ava to avoid more stress. Christina vents about Ava, saying that Ava asked her mother for money and that she doesn't deserve custody of her daughter because of what happened to Adela. And if you are listening to this, Christina had been surrogate for Molly and TJ, and there was an argument and a fight in Ava's hotel room, and Christina fell out of the window. It truly was an accident, and Adela died.
Yes.
But it's still devastating. Like, I'm not saying that Ava was completely innocent, but she didn't push her or anything.
Right.
Lucky listens quietly. Oh, but why did she go there? It had something to do with Sonny, and Christina went over to Ava's and like started yelling at her
because of the pills. Because Christina had locked out. Sonny was having another one of his heart flutters or whatever, where he needs to take his medicine, and he dropped it, and Ava stood there and didn't give him the pills. And right then, Christina walked out of like Sonny's kitchen and saw that, and so then she was, kept dwelling on the fact that Ava could have essentially killed her dad because she withheld the pills that he needed.
Yes. So that's one, who Adela is, two, why Christina is mad at Ava. So Lucky listens quietly, letting her release anger. He gently tells her that maybe she should try to let go of her hatred, not for Ava's sake, but for her own peace. Christina admits that she tries, but can't fully move past it. Later, Lucky arranges a private dinner for Elizabeth at Charlie's after hours. When she arrives, she's surprised and touched by the gesture. He tells her he might have just wanted an excuse to see her, and she playfully accepts. They share a meal of chicken parmesan, which she calls the best she's ever had. And then she says it reminds her of this place in New York City. And he says that it's from Lorenzo's, which is in New York. And she laughs in surprise, remembering that they had first had it together years ago. They reminisce about their teenage trip to New York and when she applied to art school. Because this was back before we had email, and she had to bring her portfolio to, art, I feel like you still have to do this, but you could scan that stuff now and then like mail in.
Right.
But she had to like hand deliver her application and I think portfolio too. So she recalls how they missed the last bus home and they ended up spending the night in the city. He asked if she had a good time and she smiles, saying it was the time of her life. And during this whole time, they had like flashbacks to the early 90s or to the 90s, late 90s.
It was beautiful.
They were playing hopscotch and eating pretzels, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Their conversation drifts to the mixtape Lucky made her back then, and he mentions that he found the same hotel they stayed in during their trip, the one where he first says that he slept on the floor, and then it was they slept on the floor because he was being a gentleman and slept on the floor, and then she came down and laid beside him. He admits that he actually booked a room there, and the moment between them turns quiet, charged with emotion. Then Elizabeth's phone goes off because that is what always happens. And it's time for her hospital shift, breaking the moment. She thanks him for dinner, and he tells her anytime. Before she leaves, he asks if she wants to go to New York with him, and she answers softly that he already knows the answer, and that this time neither of them will sleep on the floor. this is when we had hope in this story.
Yep.
This is when we knew we were getting it finally. And then they stab us in the heart and rip it out.
In true soap form.
Because after Liz leaves, Lulu shows up. It started with this, really.
Yeah.
And she interrupts Lucky. She mentions that she was looking for Stella to invite her to dinner, but Stella had already left. They briefly discuss Monica's recovery, and Lulu tells him that everyone at the hospital is wishing her well. Then she jokes about the bar being closed, saying that everything's free. No, Lulu, that's not how that works. And Lucky teases that he could at least get her an appetizer or a beer. Their conversation turns to family, and Lulu remarks that she rarely sees Lucky at his mother's house, even though they both live there. Lucky admits that he is spending a lot of time at Elizabeth's, and that things are going well. So well, in fact, that they're planning a trip together. And then Lulu teases him, but then grows serious, warning that revisiting such a meaningful place after so many years could be risky. She notes that a lot has changed for both of them, and sometimes it's hard to recapture what used to be. Lucky insists that he and Elizabeth aren't like other people, and that what they share is different. Lulu admits that she just might be projecting her own concerns onto him, but he acknowledges that she's made some good points. Still, he believes that even though going back could bring disappointment, he doesn't think that's how it will turn out for them. Then later, Liz goes to deliver files that the files that Rick had requested concerning Portia. Rick explains to Ava that Liz is helping him with some evidence to protect Portia. Ava questions Liz's motives, suggesting that she is using Rick to gather information for the hospital and reminding him that Rick had helped Elizabeth when she was suspended. Rick insists Liz wouldn't do that to him, saying she wouldn't use him because she still cares. Ava argues that he's clinging to the hope that Liz still loves him. Elizabeth arrives, bringing the files, and Rick thanks her for coming in and insists on giving her a ride, but she declines, saying she's fine calling a rideshare. Instead, they end up driving together, with Rick questioning Elizabeth's motives for helping him with Portia, trying to understand if she was genuinely trying to assist or had another agenda. As they talk, Rick attempts to slow the car down, but is unable to, and the vehicle crashes, leaving them both in danger. Lucky arrives at the scene, so he realizes that Liz was in the car. Panic flashes across his face, and he yells at the responding officers, calling out that his ex-wife is inside. Oh, that was so hard. He pushes past the crowd, demanding that they get to her quickly. His voice trembles with urgency and fear as he pleads for the officers to move faster, trying to keep his composure while making sure Elizabeth receives immediate attention. At the hospital, Lucky stands near Elizabeth's treatment area as the doctors work urgently, telling him to step outside. He refuses to leave, saying she needs to know that he's there. The medical team orders him out as they prepare Elizabeth for emergency surgery due to internal bleeding and injuries from the crash. After some time, Lucky visits Elizabeth once she is able and recovering in her hospital bed. He sits by her, visibly shaken but relieved. He speaks softly to her unconscious form, confessing that he's been wanting to say something since returning to Port Charles. He tells her that he loves her, that he fell in love with her the day they met, and that he'll always love her. When Liz regains consciousness, she is alert but in pain. Lucky visits again, bringing comfort and encouragement. She expresses frustration about feeling helpless and facing months of recovery. Lucky gently tells her that she needs to let herself heal and reminds her to be grateful that things weren't worse. He says that he's going to see her through it. Elizabeth admits she's not used to asking anyone for help, and Lucky replies that he'll learn to be patient with her as she does. Their conversation softens as they share a familiar warmth and quiet understanding before they're interrupted by news that Rick Lansing, Elizabeth's passenger in the accident, has woken up. He was the driver, but whatever. Later, Lucky encounters Christina, who is distraught. When he presses her, she confesses that she had tampered with the car's brakes, believing it belonged to Ava, but realizing too late that it was Rick's, because she was calling Ava nonstop when she came upon the accident. Yes. Lucky is horrified as he realizes she nearly killed Elizabeth and Rick. Christina says she didn't mean for it to happen, that she acted impulsively out of anger and fear. Lucky tells her he can't just look the other way, reminding her that Elizabeth is the mother of his child, the love of his life. Christina pleads with him not to tell anyone, terrified her family will find out. Lucky urges her to turn herself in and suggests talking with her mother, Alexis, to negotiate a plea, but Christina refuses, afraid that it will destroy her family. Lucky listens, torn between compassion and anger, acknowledging her pain but making it clear that what she did was unforgivable. The discussion turns to Molly and Christina, with Lucky pointing out the hypocrisy of trying to protect one sister at the expense of another. He warned that Christina was volatile and dangerous, emphasizing that covering for her could have serious consequences. When he asked what she had been doing in Elizabeth's hospital room, She admitted to visiting her and bringing flowers, insisting she only wanted to see if she was all right. Oh, that's right. Molly was there too. Because, wait, no, Molly was visiting Rick. Christina was going to see Liz, and Molly walked in. I don't think that they went together, but they wound up being together.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And Christina kind of covered it by, well, it's my coworker's significant other, so of course I'm going to come and make sure that she's okay. Lucky pressed further, asking if she was planning to confess. She admitted feeling guilty and unsure of what to do, saying that she couldn't live with nearly killing Liz and her sister's father. Lucky told her the guilt was good. It meant that she wasn't a sociopath, but cautioned her not to project that guilt onto Liz. He advised that if she couldn't live with it, she should confess through her mother's office, not to Elizabeth. Later in Liz's hospital room, Lucky arrived to visit. Elizabeth was in a wheelchair recovering from surgery that had left her with a broken leg and a head injury. She was relieved to see him and said she couldn't have imagined he said he couldn't have imagined what would have happened if he had lost her. Liz downplayed her own injuries and was just focusing on her recovery. She said that her surgery had gone well and her recovery would take 6 to 8 weeks, after which she'd need rehab. I think that she said just a few weeks, and he was like, didn't they say like 6 to 8? Or she said 6 to 8, and didn't he say something like, wasn't it 4 to 6 months? And she's like, no, I'll be fine.
Yeah, she definitely was not taking a break for that long.
Yeah. They talked about the crash, and she remembered getting into Rick's car and talking about helping with Portia before everything went black. She recalled trying to avoid traffic by taking Route 42 and losing control on black ice. When Liz was discharged, Lucky helped her into the wheelchair and brought her home. Friends and family gathered to welcome her back. The house was spotless, and she learned that Lucky and Aiden had worked hard to clean and prepare everything. They had even arranged a first-floor bedroom for her recovery. Liz thanked him, touched that he and Aiden had done so much. Amy was assigned as her home nurse and arrived with a very detailed care instruction and immediately took over Liz's routine. Timers for medications, hydration goals, and dietary restrictions. She gave him like an entire sheet of everything that was inflammatory foods and was like, you need to get rid of all of these because these are going to prevent her from healing.
Right. She was over the top.
Oh, it was hard. Lucky helped her organize the house while Amy oversaw Elizabeth's care. Despite the bustle, Lucky stayed close to Liz, attentive and protective. Later, Lulu stopped by and teased Lucky about spending so much time with Liz. He admitted the accident had drawn them closer together, and said he intended to take care of her for as long as she'd let him. Lulu called him valiant and selfless, and though he joked that this wasn't how he pictured reconnecting with Liz, it was clear he was devoted to her. When Laura arrived to visit, she noticed that Lucky seemed distracted and pressed him to open up. He admitted he was worried but didn't elaborate. She guessed that it had something to do with Elizabeth and reminded him that he and Elizabeth had always shared a deep connection since they were kids. She encouraged him to be honest with her about whatever he was feeling. Lucky said he appreciated the advice and admitted he'd missed that kind of guidance while he had been away. Oh, that was so true. That was so sweet. As family time continued, Elizabeth, Lucky, and Aiden spent the evening together, though Elizabeth was growing tired of Amy's constant supervision. Amy insisted on bed rest and even brought up using a bedpan, which Elizabeth firmly refused. Lucky tried to defuse the situation. It was. Lucky tried to defuse the situation, gently taking over and insisting that he could make Elizabeth comfortable himself. Amy reluctantly agreed but lingered. Lucky's tone was calm but protective, ensuring Elizabeth could relax without feeling smothered. Like, she was just trying to play Scrabble with them, and she's like, no, you need to take a nap now.
Right. They were like, but it's game time. And she was like, no, the schedule says nap time. You'll have to do this later.
Yep.
It was funny. Well, here it tells us. Soon, Amy became overbearing enough that Elizabeth asked Lucky to help her get rid of her. Lucky called in Dr. Lucas Jones, who arrived and told Amy she was needed back at General Hospital. Amy resisted, arguing that Elizabeth required professional care, but Lucky volunteered to take over, assuring Amy that he was a medical professional and knew where to reach her if needed. He wasn't a medical professional, but Lucas was a medical professional.
Mm-hmm.
Amy finally left, though not without emphasizing how much she cared for Elizabeth. After Amy was gone, Lucky admitted that it was his idea to text Lucas and arrange her removal. Elizabeth thanked him.
Was that supposed to be that Elizabeth was the medical professional? Because she could dictate to him? That might have been what that was supposed to say.
Maybe. I felt like Lucas hung out there for a while, though.
He did, but when Liz was saying, like,
Yeah, either way, they had it under control, so Amy could go.
Yeah.
After Amy was gone, Lucky admitted that it was his idea to text Lucas and arrange her removal. Elizabeth thanked him, saying it was a relief to have some peace again. Lucky said he wanted to stay and take care of her himself. She asked if he was sure, and he told her that he was, that he almost lost her and couldn't bear to let her out of his sight. Liz tells Lucky that she doesn't need him to help out of guilt and insists. Oh, and he insists that he wants to help her. Liz tells him that he doesn't need to make up for anything, but Lucky insists that that isn't true, and they continue working together, sharing a quiet, cooperative moment. I think they were just laying there, but okay. Later, Lucky talks with Lulu about Elizabeth's recovery after the accident. Lulu asks if he and Elizabeth are officially back together, and Lucky smiles, saying things between them are great. He mentions how much he enjoys staying at Liz's place and taking care of her, and Lulu teases him about taking care of her. Lucky laughs it off, but admits that living under the same roof with Liz and Aiden again feels right. Lulu tells him that she's glad it's working out and that everyone can tell how happy Elizabeth seems to have him there. When Liz talks to Laura, she confirms she's doing well and mentions Lucky has been helping her with recovery. She jokes that if they spend every second together, they drive each other crazy. Laura laughs and says she's just glad Lucky's looking after Liz. Liz smiles, showing clear affection when she talks about him, though she insists they both need some space now and then. Because people were asking why Lucky wasn't there, and he was out dealing with the stuff of Christina's accident.
Yeah.
Lucky had breakfast with Laura and Lulu, sharing how good it feels to have. Oh, Lulu is sharing how good it feels to have Rocco home safe and be surrounded by family. I thought they were saying Lucky, and I'm like, Rocco's not Lucky's. Laura teases that her house feels too quiet now that Lucky and Lulu are gone, and Lucky grins, saying it's nice to know they're missed. The conversation shows Lucky's lighter mood and how settled he feels being back in Liz's life. Later, Liz recalls her conversation with Rick, remembering the accident that injured her and how she told him to slow down before the crash. Lucky listens carefully, growing more serious when Liz mentions that Rick claimed the insurance company already took the wrecked car. After she says this, Lucky immediately tells someone on the phone to take care of it, indicating he's investigating the situation quietly. Liz notices his concern, asking why he cares so much about what happened to Rick's car. Lucky downplays it, saying he's just surprised Rick isn't suing anyone, but Liz can sense he's holding something back. While at home with Liz, Lucky and she share a moment of domestic normalcy. Liz teases him for always answering the door first, and he jokes that she can get it when she's moving faster than a snail. There's a playful, familiar rhythm between them, showing the ease of their renewed closeness. When Rick shows up unexpectedly with flowers for Liz, Lucky's tone shifts. He's polite but curt, saying he has an errand to run and quickly makes an exit, leaving Liz and Rick alone. His brief look back towards Liz before he goes suggests tension and jealousy beneath his calm exterior. There's always jealousy between him and Rick. After Lucky,
Oh, yeah.
After Lucky leaves, Liz
Well, I don't think
apologizes.
Lucky's jealous of him. Lucky's not jealous of him. Rick is jealous of him. And Lucky is like, dude, let it go.
Right. After Lucky leaves, Liz apologizes to Rick for the awkwardness. Rick brushes it off, but the exchange makes clear that Lucky's feelings for Liz remain strong and that he's unsettled by Rick's presence in her life. Again, I don't think it's unsettled. I think it's just like, dude, get the hint.
Mm-hmm.
Later, Lucky confronts Rick about the ongoing embezzlement and blackmail scheme involving Alexis and Ava. Lucky warns Rick that if they keep it up, they'll all end up in prison. He offers Rick a chance to walk away before things get worse, saying he doesn't want their daughter hurt by finding out what her father has done. Rick resists, but Lucky's tone is controlled and resolute. He's clearly motivated by protecting his family, especially Liz and their children. Lucky arrives as Liz is telling someone that Rick had come by earlier to show off his new car. She jokes about the car was very sexy, and when teased about whether Lucky interrupted a romantic moment, Liz laughs and says that unless talk of insurance claims counts as romantic, there wasn't much to interrupt. When the person she's speaking with suggests that things sound very domestic, isn't this Laura? Because Laura was there because he brought the juice and the sports car. Wasn't that at the same time?
Or was it Lucas?
Oh, maybe it was Lucas.
I feel like it's Lucas just because I don't feel like Liz would joke about the car being super sexy and stuff like that with Laura. I mean, she has a great relationship with Laura, but
Right. No, you're right. It was Lucas. Thank you. Liz admits that they're essentially living together again. She acknowledges that while it's incredible, it's also terrifying. At another location, Lucky shows an officer a signed order granting him access to a site related to an ongoing case. He speaks to a paramedic who tells him it was a miracle the crash victims survived. When someone asks how Lucky saw the car, he avoids giving details. Later, Liz opens up about how she appreciates being able to talk honestly about the accident and how everyone around her, especially Laura and Lulu, clearly want her and Lucky back together. When asked if she wants that too, Liz is adamant that she loves Lucky and doesn't think there was ever a time she didn't. She explains that they've always shared an intense connection, and despite everything they've been through, his return has been amazing for her and Aiden. She says she wants to believe they can make it work, but isn't sure they can. Lucky arrives and finds Liz looking at papers. He teases her for being dramatic before revealing that he came to investigate Rick's car. He tells her that he had been told the car was crushed at the impound, but it was discovered it had been moved. When Liz asks why he's looking for it, he tells her that the brake lines were cut, which caused the crash, and that he knows who did it. It was Christina. Elsewhere, Liz confides that Lucky may not be able to give her what she needs in a relationship. She says he's the kind of man who always leaves and wonders what would make it different now. She talks about how he's always been a restless spirit like his father, except for he wasn't always like that.
Nope.
Preferring adventure to stability while she craves being settled in Port Charles, she admits that her biggest fear is asking him to stay only for him to try and fail. Later, Lucky went back to the impound and saw Alexis, where he told her that he knew Christina had caused the accident the night that it happened. He explained that she came into Charlie's acting erratically and left suddenly, so he followed her and found her near the crash site. She meaning Christina, had said that it had been Ava driving the car and explained how the brakes got cut. Lucky says he told her to go back to Charlie's and act normal, then went to the impound lot where he was told the car had been crushed. He later learned that Rick had told Liz the insurance company took the car, meaning someone lied. Lucky says he went back to the impound lot and discovered the car had been secretly moved to another location. Liz continues talking about her fears that Lucky might not be able to stay. She says she knows he loves her and wants to be with her, but worries that he might be afraid to disappoint her. She explains that she can't be with him unless he's honest with himself and with her. Meanwhile, Lucky's discussing with Christina that he's lied to everyone, including Liz, to protect her. He says Ava and Rick have the car and are blackmailing Alexis, threatening to expose Christina's involvement unless Alexis keeps paying them.
Later, Rick stops by Liz's house with breakfast and dragonberry juice to cheer her up after she's been stuck at home recovering. They share a warm and easy exchange, joking about the juice and the nurse's ball. The mood is light and familiar between them. Laura then arrives, and Rick greets her politely before...
That's how Liz was talking to Lucas. He came over to watch the nurse's ball with her.
Yes.
And that's how it kept flipping back and forth. Lucky left them alone to enjoy that, and that's why he was out finding the stuff about the car, and so it kept flashing back to them talking. All right. Sorry.
Yep.
I forgot.
Boom. We got it together.
I forgot how I remember Lucas was there for a reason, and it was like, oh yeah, he didn't have anyone, and it was reminiscent of Britt and Brad, the way that they were talking about everyone.
Yes, that is correct. Yep. Okay. Laura then arrives, and Rick greets her politely before saying he doesn't usually barge in, but wanted to make sure that Liz didn't have to get up. Liz offers her tea, and they share a slightly awkward moment. Then Rick leaves, and Laura teases Liz that Rick might be timing his visits for when Lucky isn't around. And Liz admits that she's set clear boundaries. She says that her connection with Lucky has deepened again since he's been living with her. Laura tells Liz that she can tell Lucky still loves her, and that he's never fallen out of love with her. Liz says it's been wonderful having him there, taking care of her and Aiden, but she isn't sure if it's enough. She admits that Lucky is great at rescuing her, but not always good at everyday domestic life stuff. I feel like he has kind of proven that over the past couple weeks of having to take care of you.
Right.
But okay. Laura compares him to Luke, acknowledging that they share the same restless nature. Nope. Lucky got restless because he kept thinking kids were his that weren't.
Right. That kind of messes with a person.
And that his brother was cheating on him or that his brother was having an affair with his wife.
Yes.
He wasn't, yeah. Liz says that she wants to believe Lucky is happy there, and Laura tells her that she hopes he will stay and rebuild a life with Liz and Aiden. Lucky continues working on the case and tells Christina that her being at the crash scene is on police body cam footage. He admits that he told Dante he saw Rick's car and that he ran over when he saw Liz was one of the victims. He followed the ambulance to the hospital but never mentioned Christina. He explains that he thought the car had been crushed, only to learn later that it had been hidden. He warns Christina to stay away from the situation to avoid drawing suspicion. Then Lucky meets with Curtis, explaining that he went to see a lawyer about Liz's car accident because he knows more than he's told her. He later runs into Ava, who is surprised to see him back from Beecher's Corner so quickly. He goes to Liz's house, and Liz asks Lucky what he knows about her accident. He tells her that Christina caused it. He explains that on the day of the crash, Christina and Ava fought, and afterward, Christina went to the parking garage and cut the brake line on what she thought was Ava's car, but it was Rick's. The crash left both Rick and Liz severely injured. Liz demands to know how long Lucky has known, and he admits that he has known since the night it happened. He explains that he followed Christina, saw how devastated she was, and realized she was responsible. Liz is stunned that he has kept this from her. Lucky says Christina was in shock and full of regret, and it wasn't premeditated, and that he covered for her because he couldn't bear to destroy Alexis's family after losing Sam. Liz is furious, but listens as Lucky insists that Christina won't do something like that again. He argues that turning her in would only hurt more innocent people. Liz challenges him, saying that Ava could still be at risk, but Lucky insists that Christina has learned her lesson. Lucky tells Liz that she is the victim, and that if she wants to go to the police, he won't stop her. He acknowledges that protecting Christina also means protecting himself, since helping her makes him an accessory. Liz realizes how deeply entangled Lucky is in the cover-up. Lucky says he only did it to protect the families involved, including hers. Liz finally tells Lucky she's glad that he's been honest with her, though she asks why he waited. He couldn't keep lying if they were truly going to try again. He tells her she's the most important person in the world to him, and admits that he couldn't have handled it if she had not survived the crash. Liz says that she's fine and ready to move on, and Lucky agrees that's all he wants to. Lucky smiles and tells her that there are still amazing things to look forward to, including that dinner that he plans to cook for her that night. Lucky then surprises her with an outdoor lunch, telling her that since her cast is off, he wanted to celebrate and give her a change of scenery, so they're walking in the park. He leads her to a table he had set up, and it was like in a gazebo, and tells her that there's a lot for them to celebrate. When she asks what he means, he says that having her cast on kept her from doing the things she loves, like dancing with him. He reminds her that he promised himself that when she could walk again, he would talk her into dancing with him. Elizabeth teases that he doesn't have to talk her into it, and when he asks her to dance, she accepts. They dance together, and she thanks him for going through so much trouble. He says he's been thinking about this since they were kids. As they talk, Lucky reveals that the setting is just part of a bigger plan. He pulls out a ring and proposes to her. And this is where this is where we just feel like it was all rushed. Like
it was all rushed.
It was
the annoyance in your voice is hysterical.
He tells Elizabeth that he has loved her most because it wasn't romantic. It wasn't cute. There was no lead up to it. There was nothing. It was like, oh, hey, your cast is off. You want to get married? No. He tells Liz that he's loved her almost his entire life and that they've been through many ups and downs, and that while they've both matured, their deep connection has never gone away. He says he still believes in the life they dreamed of when they were teenagers and that he wants to spend the rest of his life with her and her sons. He asks her to marry him again. Elizabeth tells him she loves him, but says no. When Lucky asks if that's no for now or no completely, she says that right now she doesn't see a way that their lives to fit together. Again, where we are right now, how can she not see it?
Right.
Lucky acknowledges that it's a big leap of faith to ask her to say yes and admits that he's disappeared before, but says he doesn't blame her for doubting him. He promises he's ready to stay and wants to prove he's committed. Elizabeth says she believes him, but questions whether that would make him happy. She tells Lucky that she's loved him since she was young and always will, but that loving him means wanting his happiness as much as her own. She says that being with her means living in Port Charles, doing the same routine every day, and that she knows that kind of life wouldn't fulfill him. It's literally everything he was trying to do while he was raising other guys' kids. And she kept cheating on him.
Yep.
Okay. Lucky argues that she doesn't know that for sure, but she reminds him of how honest they used to be and asks him to be honest now. Lucky admits that Port Charles will always be important to him, but it's not his home. He says being there full time won't fulfill him right now. Elizabeth says that if he were the kind of person who could be content staying, he wouldn't be the man she loves. especially after redoing this entire recap. And yes, we did it in a year, but come on.
Right.
We cannot, we want them together, but at the same time, Liz, he's not the problem.
Yeah.
Lucky then asks her to come with him instead to leave Port Charles. And then, that was just a bad idea. To leave Port Charles and travel the world together. He says that she's an amazing nurse and could do good everywhere they go. And that would be an adventure. Elizabeth says their son, Aiden, has a life in Port Charles with friends, family, and school. Lucky acknowledges that she's right and says maybe they could travel after Aiden goes to college. But Elizabeth tells him it's not just about Aiden. She has a life that she loves in Port Charles with her career and her friends. She says leaving would make her as unhappy as he would be if he stayed. Lucky tells her he's loved her since the moment he saw her outside of Kelly's years ago and that he'll always love her. They agree they've grown into different people. Lucky admits that he plans to leave Port Charles because staying when they can't be together hurts too much. And this literally all happened in one episode in 20 minutes.
Yep.
Elizabeth says she could get to work, and Lucky offers to drive her and saying he wants to see her get there safely one last time. At the hospital, she tells him to go say his goodbyes, and they share one last emotional moment, acknowledging their love and the pain of letting go. Why am I the one reading this? She says that they've changed since they were 15 and that they want different things now. Lucky tells her he still loves her as much as he did back then. And Elizabeth says it's better to admit it now than to end up unhappy later. And they both agree it's what's best for them, even though it hurts. Later, Elizabeth is telling Lucas that Lucky is leaving Port Charles. She explains that she told him to go. She knows because she knows he's not meant to settle down. She reveals that he proposed, but that she turned him down because he's not meant for the quiet life. Lucky, meanwhile, talks with Lulu about his decision. He says he's heartbroken, but knows that it's the right thing for both of them and for Aiden. He says Elizabeth didn't turn him down because she doesn't love him, but because they want different things. He explained that they love each other enough to let each other go. Lucky then gave Isaiah the deed to his father's cabin, saying that he won't be able to use it anymore. Right. He won't be able to use it anymore. Why wouldn't you give it to your son? Well, okay, to be fair, though, it does need a lot of work. So that's why he gave it to a doctor. Isaiah tells him that he doesn't owe him anything. Oh, yeah. And because, Isaiah saved Lulu's life.
Yes.
But Lucky insists it's his way of repaying a debt. Later, Lucky visits with Laura to tell her that he's leaving Port Charles. She asks if he's sure that he's doing it for the right reasons, and he says that he is. Laura tells him that she's proud of him and that this time feels different, that he's leaving because he truly believes it's best for him. Lucky tells her that he proposed to Elizabeth and that she turned him down, but that it was the right decision. Laura says that she's grateful he came home and reconnected before leaving again, and gives him her blessing to go. And it was so hard watching it. It was so hard watching Jeannie Francis say that to Jonathan. Sorry. So then before his departure, Isaiah shared a conversation with Elizabeth, and he tells her that love doesn't always have to have a fairy tale ending. And Elizabeth agrees, saying that even though she and Lucky love each other, staying together would have broken their hearts. She says she's grateful for the young people they were when they first met, but they've grown to different lives. And also when he asked her to go with him, she was like, oh, but I have an idea. And the idea was that Aiden was going to go with him for the summer. So then we see at the airport. Lucky prepares to board with Aiden for a trip beginning in Amsterdam. He tells Aiden how excited he is to show him the world. And as he's waiting to board, Elizabeth arrives. And she actually texted him to wait for her.
And we thought we were going to get the moment we wanted.
I know. And the guy is saying we need to shut the door. And he's like, but she's coming. She's coming. And I mean, it is legit the series finale of Friends. That's all that I could see. And she gets there and she tells Lucky that she thought about coming, but can't. And he even said that. He's like, you don't have a bag. And she's like, yeah, I thought about it. But she told him that she loves him and always will. And Lucky says that he loves her too. I know. I almost think this whole thing. And Lucky says that he loves her too and promises to take care of himself and Aiden. And they share a final goodbye. And Elizabeth watches as he leaves. And then they shut the door and he's gone. And that was it.
Yep.
Oh. Okay, I still do this at the series finale of Friends, and it has been 21 years.
I love it. I think it's seriously adorable.
But seriously, they basically mirrored Ross and Rachel, too. So it was extra extra emotional. But yeah, so that is how Lucky Spencer left in 2025. About a month after this, Amanda and I went to see him and Claire Bowen doing a tour. And we mentioned this earlier in this episode, that he truly apologized,
Mm-hmm.
And he acknowledged that it might not always be it. And that he said that he would consider, he might be available for like little here and there's. But as of right now, he has a 13-year-old son at home that the new schedule was not working for. And how can we be mad at that?
Right. And that really only means, assuming that his son's going to go off to college, not that I want to rush it because I have an almost 13-year-old daughter, but that only means 5 more years.
Right. Exactly.
So we can wait 5 years for Lucky. No big deal.
Yeah. We just waited 9.
Right.
So,
True,
all right, guys, that was it. Exactly. 52 episodes of Lucky Spencer in the can. Hi.
Oh, I should have tracked how many times you cried during the 52 episodes.
Oh, seriously. Oh, God. Maybe that should be something we track in 2026. How many times does Shannon cry? What does Shannon cry about? I'm not tracking that. You'll have to be the one tracking it.
I'm not tracking that either. It adds depth to the podcast, and I love it. I love that you care that much. I just have to make fun of you because I do.
I'm just sappy. I'm a romantic.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right. Well, okay. So we've been joking at the end of the most recent episode saying we wonder if Aiden's going to be coming home. But this past week, we found out that Aiden is home. He just never got a homecoming.
Right.
So I guess we're just going to be boring and say, join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to peer54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review.
And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Peer 54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at peer54podcast@gmail.com.